Hey everyone, I actually debated for quite some time about even doing this video, but I feel compelled to kind of share my opinion and also kind of set the record straight too, because first and foremost I'm posting this video as a journalist. I am not posting it as a representative of the TV station that I work for and have worked for the last decade. I have been a journalist for 17 years. I've been a wrestling fan for 30 years, and I'm hoping that I'm not wearing rose-colored glasses as I post this, and I'm thinking that wrestling is above and beyond the media scrutiny. But I do think that it's being unfairly targeted, specifically after the Nancy Grace program on HLN the other night. So I just kind of want to put this out there, and I know that, you know, if 100 people watch this video, quite honestly, it'll be a lot. I realize that. But I'm hoping that non-wrestling fans who have that misconception of the business watch this, because I'm preaching to the choir when it comes to wrestling fans, because social media has a lot of negative rants towards Nancy Grace. And, I don't look at Nancy Grace or any of the cable news outlets as journalists per se. I work in local news. I'll never be at the national level. I'll never be at the network level, and I don't aspire to be. I know things are done differently, and especially on the cable shows where it's more ratings driven and entertainment driven, and it's about getting the people to watch, which local news is the same, but I do believe that there are different standards on the local level versus the national level. And I'm not slamming anyone, I'm just saying my opinion and what I've observed in the last nearly 2 decades in the news business. My first reference that I want to point out is she kept saying, Nancy Grace that is, kept saying that the Ultimate Warrior was found dead. And then she said that he collapsed in the parking lot at the hotel. So little things like that. He, according to other media sources and other reports, he was with his wife in the parking lot and collapsed. Had a catastrophic medical condition, which is being assumed that was a heart attack. And then the spin is that it was involved claims of steroid and drug use swirling now around the Ultimate Warrior, who admitted years ago, decades ago, that he did in fact use steroids. You can look at old video of him and tell that he was larger than life, he was full of energy, and he admitted to that. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that that abuse didn't lead to this catastrophic medical event, and the jury's still out. We haven't heard an official cause of death at this point, at least as of this posting on April 10th. So the jury's still out, and to say that things are swirling, Nancy Grace is the first person I've heard say this, and there are other media sources out there, and I haven't watched every single story about this, so it may be out there by other sources as well. But the other thing that bothered me, and probably the bigger thing that bothered me, was they ran a scroll during the program of all these wrestlers who died, most of them under the age of 40 or 45. Ultimate Warrior was 54 at the time of his death. But several of the wrestlers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them at least, and they're not all wrestlers by the way either, were listed as dying early and prematurely, and again the steroid word was thrown out and drug use was thrown out. And there's no evidence that any of the men on this list died from either of those things. DJ Peterson, for example, died in a car accident. Gary Albright had diabetes and died of a heart attack, had an enlarged heart. And if you look at him, and I'm not knocking him, he did not look like your typical juiced up meathead. He was a big guy, and big guys do sometimes have other health problems that can lead to a heart attack. It's not always drugs or steroids. Mark Curtis, aka Brian Hildebrand, who was a referee in WCW and a manager at some point as well, died of stomach cancer. Brady Boone, killed in a car accident. Joey Morella, the son of the late great Gorilla Monsoon, was a referee, died in a car accident. None of these accidents, these car accidents, motorcycle accidents, have been linked to drugs, alcohol, any kind of abuse at all. It's just unfortunate. A lot of travel in the wrestling business. They're on the road constantly, some points up to 300 days a year. So when you're on the road that often, accidents do happen. And then, of course, probably the one that has infuriated a lot of people, Owen Hart, who did not use drugs, who did not use steroids, and literally fell to his death from the rafters in the Kemper Arena in Kansas City, Missouri in 1999, and basically died in front of the wrestling fans at a live pay-per-view. That was just an unfortunate accident. The costume he was wearing got jammed into the harness rigging that they were going to use to lower him to the ring. So Nancy Grace, to use these deaths and exploit these deaths, and I'll give her the credit that some of the men and women on that list did have a history of drug abuse and drug use, and that likely did lead to their demise. But to lump every death involved in wrestling to drug abuse, to steroid use, is irresponsible journalism. It is misleading, and it's a lie. And, you know, she asked Diamond Dallas Page, who was a former wrestler who now is a health advocate that does DDP yoga and is in great shape. And she asked him why he was in great shape. Ultimate Warrior was in great shape, or Ultimate, which she kept referring to him as too. In great shape, so why was he found dead? Well, you know, I read stories every day in you know, on the wires, and healthy, seemingly healthy people, fit people, people who are in shape, who die. It's unknown. They have heart issues that they didn't know about. Things happen to healthy young people, unfortunately, and they leave this world. It does not mean that they did drugs. It did not mean that they abused alcohol or abused steroids. And again, time will tell if drug use, the steroid use, I should say, from the past, emphasis on the past, played a residual role on the Ultimate Warrior's death. It may very well have, but as I said, lumping them all together, not fair, Nancy Grace, not fair at all. And one final note, the whole Chris Benoit thing, and this is again another example of her irresponsible journalism and not knowing the subject matter she's talking about, implying that his demotion from the Four Horsemen, which had happened years and years, at least 8 or 9 years prior to being sent to Monday Night Raw, which was the biggest wrestling company at the time when it was facing WCW, as a demotion, and that led to him being psychotic and going on this killing rampage some 8 years later or more to kill his wife and his son and himself, is ludicrous. And it's, again, irresponsible, and as a wrestling fan, it offends me. As a journalist, it offends me even more. And so, non-wrestling fans, I hope you stuck through this video and watched it. Please share it, like it. I just want to kind of clear up some of the misconceptions about the business that, honestly, I love very, very much. So, thanks for watching, and don't forget to please subscribe to my 1, 2, 3 cents.